You have been warned. Today, gentlemen, ladies, and NBs, we embark into unexplored territories, places that no man has yet witnessed.
Hey, I've always wanted to explore darkest Africa like my great-granddad Gavin did.
I was talking about live-action films with animated effects.
Oh. Well, I'm Hamish McTavish McHaggis.
And I'm Benjamin Nedley Dixon Terence St. John Flimflam Old Grey.
This is Old School Cartoons.
Yep, you heard that right. The movie Hewy and I will be reviewing today is a first for this show, as it is not a cartoon, but a live-action film with animated special effects.
Well, talk about stretching the definition of a cartoon review to its very limit. What even is it, anyway?
Glad you asked, Hewy. You see, a few years ago, I reviewed a stop-motion animated short from 1915 called The Dinosaur and the Missing Link by special effects pioneer Willis O Brien.
And?
So for this episode, I was originally set to review his 1918 short film, The Ghost of Slumber Mountain, but unfortunately it only had about 2 minutes of animation in a 19-minute film. So instead, I decided to look at the next movie he worked on afterwards, possibly one of the most defining dinosaur films in history.
You mean?
Yep, it's the 1925 feature film, The Lost World.
Based on the 1912 novel by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who's best known for creating the famous literary detective Sherlock Holmes, The Lost World sees Willis O Brien team up with director Harry O. Hoyt and screenwriter Marion Fairfax. While other films before this combined animation and live action, none before this one had done it on such a large scale, with this high-quality full restoration by Flicker Alley from 2017 clocking in at 106 minutes.
Yep, I guarantee this will be the longest film we ever talk about on this show.
Not to mention a mainstay of both silent cinema and monster movies. So you're even going to stay awake for that long?
Should do. Now just a quick note, neither of us have actually read the book before, so we're going to be judging this film entirely on its own merit.
Aye. Besides, this film will be celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Well, better late than never. So, get your pith helmets on and let's head into the jungle. What will we discover? We haven't the foggiest.
And whatever it is, this should be interesting.
So the film starts by fanning its own ego, with Conan Doyle himself in his garden giving a little speech. However, in actuality, this prologue was never part of the original film and was taken from a sound interview he did in 1927. And it was added into this restoration, probably to give him some posthumous publicity. The actual film begins on a night in London. London. It's always fucking London.
What, you'd rather this took place in Clacton?
Okay, point taken. Here we focus on a couple, newspaper reporter Edward Malone and his girlfriend Gladys Hungerford, played by Lloyd Hughes and Alma Bennett respectively. Gladys announces she only wants to marry a truly brave man, which Ed doesn't seem to be.
So it's clear that there is more to a guy than just looks.
Despite what some men try to claim. Later, at the office of the London Record Journal, the editor discusses a supposed crackpot scientist named Professor Challenger, who raves about the existence of living dinosaurs somewhere in the jungles of South America, and who doesn't allow news reporters near his meetings. Meanwhile, Ed tries to get a dangerous assignment, but he spills ink and slips right into the editor's office, where he lucks into reporting Challenger's upcoming speech at the Zoological Hall, in the hopes of becoming the truly brave man Gladys desires. Well, I cannot think of anything less dangerous than a ride on the Challenger. At the Hall, Ed sees famous hunter and explorer Lord John Roxton, played by Lewis Stone, who seems to believe there is some validity to Challenger's tall tales, and sneaks Ed into the auditorium, where a Professor Summerlee, played by Arthur Hoyt, introduces Professor Challenger, played by Wallace Beery, to an eager crowd.
Well, that's one way of shutting down the haters.
Challenger demands a volunteers, to follow him back to the Lost World. Professor Summerlee immediately stands up, just to prove Challenger is wrong. Roxton follows suit, as well as Ed, who makes the mistake of announcing his job role to Challenger. Well, how else do you think he would react? Challenger gets home, unaware that Ed is following him. Then Ed proceeds to break into his house. You know, Eddie baby, there's a difference between being brave and just being plain reckless. Ed tries to explain himself to Challenger, who immediately goes Homer Simpson on his intruding arse, and both of them tumble onto a policeman and have to explain themselves.
At least he's honest.
Ed mentions his friendship with John Roxton, which wins over Challenger, who is given a stern talking to from his wife.
I've heard of putting your wife on a pedestal, but that is ridiculous.
Ed is invited into Challenger's study where, after being yelled at to sit down, he mentions his reasons for joining the expedition. At which point they're both greeted by Roxton, who insists on discussing the diary of an American explorer called Maple White, which is full of drawings of him interacting with living dinosaurs. So he's off riding Yoshino, is he?
Then a young woman named Paula appears, played by Bessie Lowe, who is actually the daughter of Maple White, and who immediately fancies Ed. Well, that's gonna cause a few conflicts. Challenger reveals to Ed that Paula is the reason for his claims of live dinosaurs in the Amazon, as she came to him with her father's diary. Paula then details that while she was sick at camp with jungle fever, her father went up onto a large plateau where the dinosaurs still roam, but was never seen again. And then Challenger's wife mentions how her husband was meant to raise rescue funds, but his temper keeps getting in the way. That complicates matters a bit.
Ed then stands up and declares this would be an excellent story, and his newspaper would be able to finance a rescue party in exchange for exclusive publication rights. Challenger objects, but his wife and Paula convince him to change his mind. And as the party bids goodnight, Roxton reveals he fancies Paula.
That's gonna cause more conflicts than before.
Either way, the funds are raised and the party sets sail for South America. In the standard jungle hut, Ed writes a love letter for Gladys, which is nearly eaten by a parrot, while Ed freaks out over a passing crocodile.
Actually, that looks more like an alligator, which aren't native to South America.
Why don't we just split the difference and say it's a caiman?
Meanwhile, Professor Summerlee takes an interest in a rare bug.
Gonna say blame him, I bet it's delicious.
Challenger announces they depart in 10 minutes, but a monkey named Jocko steals Summerlee's glasses. He objects to the monkey coming, but Challenger says Jocko knows which berries are edible in the jungle, so Summerlee reluctantly agrees.
So they set sail, or rather, they row down the river in canoes.
The next morning, the party is now deep in the jungle and encounter its many perils: jaguars, anacondas, Bambi, as well as a sloth carrying its baby.
But you know what we aren't encountering? Dinosaurs!
Wait, just a moment.
We're clearly getting close. Hang on, isn't that Paradise Falls from Pixar's Up?
Probably because it was used as a direct reference for Up.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, it's been 3 weeks since they left the river and trekked on foot, according to Ed's letter to his boss, and the party makes camp for the night at the base of the plateau, where an angry ape man is watching them.
Okay, this is a bit awkward. Well, meanwhile, the camp's food stash is raided by Paddington's cousins.
Roxton says they're full-grown spectacled bears, but they're really just bear cubs with spots painted on, as actual spectacled or Andean bears are slightly larger with white marks on their faces.
Other than that, they're just so darn cute.
True.
But then the ape man tries to crush them with rocks. Well, what do you expect? You're invading on their territory.
And is that a chimpanzee with him? Last I remember, chimps live in Africa, not South America.
Hold that thought, Hammy, because...
Alright, prehistoric life at last.
Indeed, and it's clear to see that Willis O Brien's animation has improved significantly since The Dinosaur and the Missing Link. As the pteranodon drops its dinner onto the forest floor, Challenger is ecstatic to learn the claims in Maple White's diary were true. Okay, hold up. Pterodactyl? That is quite clearly a pteranodon.
Pterodactyl is just the common term used for pterosaurs by the general public, which can be applied to any species such as the pteranodon. The word itself is derived from the specimen known as Pterodactylus, which was discovered in 1812.
Who died and made you king of paleontology? Remember, this is a gag review, not a documentary.
Just wanted to show off how much smarter I am than you.
Well, the next morning, the party heads up to the pinnacle next to the plateau, leaving the camp in the protection of Challenger's servants called Austin and Zombo.
We may talk about him later.
But the topic is interrupted when Summerlee catches the eye of another rare bug. You're just asking for it, you know. At the top of the pinnacle, Ed and Roxton hack down the tree, while they unknowingly catch the attention of a brontosaurus. Oh, and the ape man.
Still intruding on his turf, I see.
Well, eventually they've got a log bridge, and they secure it to safely cross, or at least safely by a very loose standard.
Don't go inspecting bugs now, you idiot!
Roxton is the last to cross, as the brontosaurus starts making its way towards the bridge. Jocko also wants to join in the adventure, but...
Smart move.
Hey, that's a cool effect. How'd they do that?
With a little in-camera effect called double exposure, or matte shots.
You see, what they would do is shoot the live footage of the actors in front of a glass screen with a part of it painted black. The footage would then be rewound and then placed on top of the animation footage. This is how you get shots like the actors interacting with a brontosaurus, or even a flying river in front of said dinosaur. Now the party gets up close and personal with the brontosaurus, and Roxton realizes it'll be a much tougher game than he was ready for. Though Challenger reassures them all that the only threat it poses is accidentally treading on them. But the brontosaurus heads for the log bridge, and just drops it down the ravine.
We're stuck here.
That night, the party sends smoke signals from the top of the plateau, which are spotted by the home base. Well, enough of that. The party makes camp near a warped tree. Summerlee studies a new species of lizards, and Ed starts getting suspiciously intimate with Paula.
Have you forgotten that a woman is waiting for you back in London?
Them bros ain't loyal. Paula doubts her father is even alive, but there's no time for that as an Allosaurus is closing in on them. It immediately attacks a duck-billed dinosaur called a Trachodon. This doesn't look so smooth. Was O'Brien having an off day or something?
Technically, because he didn't animate this scene, but one of his assistants did. After all, up till now, O'Brien had only worked on short films, so you can imagine how hard it would have been for him to do it alone on a feature-length one.
But even so, this is a pretty damn grisly death. No kidding, it's amazing what they did with those models.
Impressed? Well, here's how they pulled it off.
You see, before this film, O'Brien built all his stop-motion models out of clay wood skeletons or armatures, but those tended to either melt, bend or break while under hot studio lights. But starting with the Ghost of Slumber Mountain, O'Brien would replace the wood skeletons with more intricate ones made of lightweight metal, which wouldn't break so easily, along with cotton stuffing, foam rubber muscles and skin, and even adding an inflatable bladder in some models to make it look as though they were actually breathing. Whoa, that's some attention to detail. Speaking of, the models themselves would be sculpted by model maker Marcel Delgado, who would work with O'Brien once again on King Kong, among other projects afterwards. For the design of the dinosaurs, Delgado was inspired by the paintings of paleo artist Charles R. Knight, on display at the American Museum of Natural History in a deliberate attempt to make them as scientifically accurate as possible for the time.
Want to know how accurate it was back then?
When Sir Arthur Conan Doyle himself was visiting America at a time when the film was being made, O'Brien would let him borrow some test footage of the dinosaur animation, and Doyle would then show it off to friends at the American Society of Magicians in New York, which included the legendary Harry Houdini, fooling them into thinking the dinosaurs were real. Now who's doing a documentary?
What? It's fun to learn these kinds of things, you know.
Challenger warns of the Allosaurus, calling it a vicious pest. Understatement of the century, as it then eyes a family of grazing triceratops. The mother, sensing they were in danger, hides her baby in a nearby ditch, while she faces up to that big brute.
Ouch! That's going to need more than just a plaster.
Meanwhile, Summerlee inspects another rare bug, but Ed feels itchy and scrapes it off.
Well, could he help it if he was itching?
But then a pair of glowing eyes gives the party a sense of danger, and sure enough, the Allosaurus spots them and crashes into their camp. But all that does is give us a nosebleed, so Ed throws a flaming torch into the Allosaurus's gaping maw.
Whoa, they actually coloured the flames? Talk about a revolutionary effect.
That said, it does look like it's smoking a joint.
This causes the Allosaurus to run off and try to attack another Triceratops.
That's not a Triceratops, Benedict.
Wait, it's not? Then what is it then? Agathomus. The hell is that? Oh.
But it's the Agathomus that wins this fight and gores the Allosaurus to death with its horns.
Damn, for 1925, this sure was bloody. I think I even saw some entrails.
Ed decides to climb the nearby tree to find somewhere safer to camp, knowing the Moon Knight will reveal every dino's location. While that's going on, the Agathomus from earlier is eyed by a T-Rex. No, not that kind of T-Rex. And this time it's the Agathomus that meets his Cretaceous creator.
You gotta admit the dinosaur fights in this movie are pretty fucking intense.
While the Rex dines on a passing Pteranodon, Ed gets to the top of the tree and finds some caves opposite a large lock, unaware that the ape man is gaining on him, but... bang! Lucky for the ape man, it's just a flesh wound, so it rushes away into the bushes, as Ed tells the others about the caves, and to leave the trees to the missing link.
Nice callback.
Meanwhile, it's revealed Jocko made it back to the camp as being tended by Zambo.
Sorry, I just can't hold it back anymore.
There is a blackface character in this movie, and it is really bothering me!
Oh, and his dialogue is offensive as well.
You're right for once. At least we don't have to worry about stuff like this today.
You are absolutely right, Hammy.
Anyway, Austin has an idea and asks Zambo to gather all the hammocks.
Just what are they gonna do anyway?
Well, the next morning, the main party makes it to the caves. Challenger tries to create a catapult out to the trees while Summerlee just watches and comments.
In other words, Summerlee is doing what we're doing now.
While that's going on, Ed and Paula wait in the caves as Roxton explores further down, where he finds...
Surely it can't be.
M.W. Maple White.
What a sad and lonely way to die.
But while Roxton makes his way back, the cave starts spewing fire. And after that though, let's see how Challenger's catapult is doing.
Well, it works, kinda.
Now Roxton finds the cave exit on the face of the plateau's cliff. So he shoots off a signal for Austin and Zambo, who have just finished making a makeshift ladder to get off the plateau.
Good thing they had all those hammocks.
And they both urge Roxton to bring Polar over so Jocko can bring the ladder up to the cave, ergo getting them all down. Meanwhile, Ed and Paula fear they might be stuck on the plateau forever, which causes them to become intimate again.
Like you said, Hammy, these bros ain't loyal.
Just then, Roxton comes back, just as Ed and Paula embrace in a loving kiss, breaking his heart.
Plenty of fish in the sea, mate. Plus, you may be wealthy, but you're just not her type.
Roxton asks Ed to round up the others, while he announces the news of Paula's father.
I can only imagine how tough this must be for her.
Meanwhile, Summerlee and Challenger are still following the Brontosaurus, which is just eating.
Yeah, no one would ever believe them.
But then another Allosaurus comes around. So the two giants duke it out, and it's Motherwell rules. The Brontosaurus bites the Allosaurus' throat, but it ends up being pushed off a cliff. Oh, it survived, somehow. In the meantime, a rescue party arrives at the base of the plateau. And just in time because a dormant volcano is starting to erupt.
There's always volcanoes in dinosaur movies, don't ask me why.
Back in the caves, Paula and Roxton are still waiting for Summerlee and Challenger to return. And Ed is out searching for them as the screen turns hot red.
Now, just a quick note. It's actually quite cool how they're changing the colour tilting depending on the mood or time of day.
Yellow for daytime, green for the jungle, blue for night, pink for romance, and as we've just seen, red for life-threatening danger from an erupting volcano.
Aye, it worked before colour film became a standard.
So all the dinos rush for cover as the fire and lava inch closer, and Ed witnesses a Triceratops stampede. Oh hey look, there's a Stegosaurus too.
About time one showed up.
not to mention more brontosauruses. Oh, and a T-Rex attacking a brachiosaurus.
You'd think they'd have better priorities than eating dinner during an eruption. The fire rages so intensely you'd swear Bolsonaro was involved somehow. But the fire eventually dies down, and come the dawn of day, the scavengers are out in force to eat those that didn't make it. Mother Nature, red in tooth and claw.
Roxton leads Paula to the exit, and Jocko climbs the cliff, bringing the rope ladder up with him. Thankfully, Ed, Challenger and Subbly are safe.
We never see them get in. I'll just assume they teleported at the last minute.
But the ape man senses them escaping and makes his way down.
Haven't you caused enough trouble?
Well, the ladder is up, and it's ladies first, followed by monkeys, biologists, professors, game hunters, and finally, reporters. However, in a move that King Kong would replicate 8 years later, the ape man hoists the ladder up, with Ed still on it. But, of course...
Stupid death, hope next time it's not you!
Ed is dropped quite suddenly, but he climbs down safely. But as they make their way back, they see the Brontosaurus from earlier still stuck in the mud.
And somehow still alive.
Ed tries to flirt with Paula now they're both safe, but Paula reminds him there's someone still waiting for him back in London. And Roxton comforts her while she works through her thoughts. Then someone from the rescue party arrives, so Roxton points out the Brontosaurus. Of course, typical London tough, taking stuff from other countries without asking.
Well, they somehow get the beast on board a ship to London, and later back at the Zoological Hall, Challenger gives a speech on his findings.
Oh, okay. Nice to know the society isn't segregated.
But someone demands Challenger show his evidence, so Challenger informs them that Ed is arranging the beast's unloading from the chartered ship. Only to learn in a phone call from Ed that the cage broke and the Brontosaurus is now running rampant in the streets. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time in cinema history where a prehistoric animal runs amok through a city.
You're right there. So all other giant monster movies from King Kong to Godzilla owe their entire existence to this one silent movie.
Whoa.
While the audience tears Challenger to shreds for supposedly duping them again, the dinosaur, via some early chroma key effects, causes havoc just outside the Society building.
Littlefoot's a lot stronger than I imagined.
As the panicked onlookers rush down into the underground for safety, the Brontosaurus knocks over the equestrian statue of Charles I.
Ooh, they're not gonna like that down in Alabama.
The beast continues to run amok, sticking its head into a flat and nearly treading on a woman protecting her baby. Thankfully, a passerby who just so happens to be carrying a gun shoots the dinosaur in the foot and gets the woman and her baby out of there.
Good job that Brontosaurus isn't just attacking people on purpose.
Of course, it's just lost and confused by its new surroundings. Put any wild animal in that kind of situation and you can only expect all hell to break loose. However, it doesn't approve of the smell of gaslight and tears the whole building down to stop it. As you do.
It then makes its way onto the tower bridge, but its massive weight and all that stomping is too much for the bridge to handle as it collapses, sending the Brontosaurus splashing into the Thames below.
Oh, hey look, it's the River Thames monster.
But no scratching on this, am I right? Well, after all that's over, Ed finds Gladys, only to find she got married to another man while he was away. All that talk about wanting a truly brave man, and she goes and marries a store clerk who's never been out of London in his life.
Yeah, there are things I want to say, but I can't say on camera.
But the good news is that Ed is now available and can marry a delighted Paula, and they both share an intimate kiss in the back of a cab, while Roxton looks on, heartbroken but stoic, and Professor Challenger just contemplates his next life choice.
Oh, and the Brontosaurus is now trying to find its way back home. Good luck with that, mate.
So that was The Lost World. How does it hold up?
Well, I'm not surprised at all at how influential this film has been over the past 100 years. The story really leaves you on the edge of the seat throughout. It may be over 100 minutes of silent film, but I never lost interest for 1 second. And of course, Willis O Brien's animation is amazing, with the added detail on the models and even the way the creatures behave. It really does look like the characters on screen are encountering real live dinosaurs. Of course, the only thing holding this film back is all the blackface acting. That said though, Zambo is a pretty intelligent POC character in an era where intelligent POC characters were almost non-existent, and he is treated pretty well for the time, though it would have been better to have an actual black actor in the role. That's all that needs to be mentioned. So all things considered, this film gets a score of 10 points. It's a real thrill ride of a film, and it more than deserves its legacy as both a pioneering monster movie and in the realm of special effects animation.
So if you can sit through 100 minutes of silent film and you're okay with a few out-of-date moments, I'm sure you can give this one a try. So, what number were we on again, Hammy?
I counted 49.
49? So next month, we better do something big for our season 3 finale.
Or we could just do a top 10 list like every other reviewer does.
Right, that's sorted then. I'm Benedict.
And I'm Hammy.
And we'll see you on the next Old School Cartoon. See you later!